Hello, Harrisburg School District. I'm Kirsten Keys, your Public Relations Coordinator. We are broadcasting live to video at the WITF Media Center with Scott LaMar and Smart Talk. We're going to be joined with Dr. Janet Samuels, the court-appointed receiver, and Christopher Celmer, our acting assistant superintendent, for a very special live interview. Stay tuned for more.
Welcome to Smart Talk. I'm Scott LaMar. The word troubled often precedes descriptions of the Harrisburg School District. Earlier this summer, the state took over management of the school district in what is called receivership. This comes against a backdrop of 49% of students who start at 9th grade in Harrisburg graduate. 20% of third graders tested proficient in reading and 16% in math. The goals were 62% proficient in reading and 48% in math. The district's finances are in disarray too, including some questionable spending. How will the state get the district back on track, and the biggest question yet, offer a quality education to Harrisburg students? Joining us to discuss those questions and many more today, Dr. Janet Samuels is the court-appointed receiver for the district. Dr. Samuels, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Also joining us is Christopher Celmer, who is the acting assistant superintendent. Mr. Celmer, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
If you have a question or a comment, give us a call, 1-800-729-7532. Send an email to smarttalk@witf.org. You can leave a question or a comment on WITF's Facebook page. On Twitter, we are at Smart Talk WITF. Again, that phone number, 1-800-729-7532. Just want to remind our audience that this is not just about the Harrisburg School District. This is something that has ramifications in other districts and in our region. We're talking about a large school district in the capital city of Pennsylvania, so there should be interest throughout the region. Dr. Samuels, I don't want to look back a lot at the past, but I think we have to for the context of what we're talking about for plans for improvements with the district. Those academic numbers, those test scores that I just read are pretty alarming. How did that happen?
Well, the ultimate goal is to ensure all students across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania meet with success, and in particular here in the Harrisburg School District. And so one of the things that's so very important when we think about high-performing school districts is that, there's certain characteristics and qualities, and one is to ensure that there is a sound curriculum, there's support for a strong leadership, and the focus is on instruction. And so over time, that probably was not necessarily the norm or the priority in terms of the administration in Harrisburg School District.
Why not?
I can't tell you why not. I can only tell you I know exactly what children so richly deserve. And I can also share that I believe that there's lots of potential here in the Harrisburg School District. I think now, especially with some of the changes that have taken place, there's a committed staff, which is very important. There are committed administrators, and there's been attention that's paid to student achievement and also taking a look at curriculum. And that's been a priority, even though this has been a very, very short time. There are many, many things that have been happening behind the scenes, quite aggressively, if I should say, so that we can do what's right for the children in this district, so we can ensure that the children get what they so richly deserve.
You probably are not in a position to answer this question, but I'll ask it anyway because it is part of the conversation. And I actually saw an editorial that asked whether the state should have taken over the district earlier. How is something like this allowed to go on for so long?
Well, I do think the state was concerned by virtue, first of all, in 2012, when the Financial Recovery Act was put in place in Harrisburg. I think that until itself shows that there was concern.
And that was just finances, though.
Exactly. That was finances, a financial recovery plan. However, the Secretary of Education did add components related to the academic achievement of students, looking at achievement, graduation rates, attendance. So I do believe that for a while, it was quite a concern at that particular level.
Mr. Celmer, as acting assistant superintendent, by the way, Dr. John George is the acting superintendent, was scheduled to be with us today, but had another commitment and is unable to join us. But Mr. Celmer, as the acting assistant superintendent, by the way, what is your background coming into this?
I recently left my position with the Reading School District, where I was assistant.
Where Dr. George was, too.
Right, yes, Dr. George and I also worked together at the Berks County Intermediate Unit for 11 and a half years. I was part of the team in 2014 that went into the Reading School District as part of a 6-month agreement with the school board at that time to assess and oversee the daily operations and administration of the school district. I ultimately ended up staying on board with the Reading School District, and up until now, I'm now with obviously Harrisburg School District, and happy to be here.
Reading has been held up as how improvements can work. Reading was, I don't know, tell me if this is accurate, but Reading was in much the same situation as Harrisburg is now coming in. What did you do? What changes did you make that Reading was able to improve? I mean, there are a lot of similarities between the city of Reading, the city of Harrisburg, for example.
There are, and really it started with stability of the central administrative team, as well as stability with the school board. And once we were able to create stability and a common focus on what was best for students within the Reading School District, that's where we really started to see some significant change in our operations. Very similar to Harrisburg, though, the first 90 to 120 days were focused on finances. Similar to Harrisburg, we did not have a clear picture of our budget. We didn't know our expenditures, we didn't know our revenues, and we had to create that, kind of creating a puzzle without the picture, so to speak. And that's very difficult and hard work, and the team has been working through that since July 1st, and getting closer to that picture. Once we have that picture in place, then we can start looking strategically, at a 3 to 5 year plan, not only for finances, but also for academics and the overall operations of the school district. So it is sometimes a slower and more tedious process than any of us would like, but at the same time, we need to do our due diligence and make sure we have a clear understanding of where we're at today so we can move forward to tomorrow. And that's really a lot of the work that's been done over the first 60 days with the team that's been brought in to work with Dr. Samuels as the receiver here with the Harrisburg School District.
Do you see similarities? I mean, you've just listed some, but are there others?
There are many similarities, not only financial but operational, and the core of just feeling hopeful for the Harrisburg School District. There was a loss of confidence and hope in Reading School District in 2014. And really rebuilding what should be normal in a day-to-day school operation, daily, annually, biannually, and that takes time, and it's going to take trust of us and the new team that we will do the right things for both our staff and our students. And hopefully the track record of the team and the work we've done prior to Harrisburg will also play into the hope and the promise and the confidence that we are here to do the right thing for the students of the Harrisburg School District.
Dr. Samuels, the two of you came in very friendly this morning. Both had smiles on your faces. But just in talking to you for a few minutes, and just from what I understand, is that you've tried to create a positive atmosphere at the start of this school year for Harrisburg School District. Why is that important?
First of all, it's about respect, respecting students, staff members, this broader community. And it's also a matter of having high expectations. When you believe and you want people to do well, you have to support them, you have to help them. And so I have this motto and theory around service and support. You have to share exactly what the expectations are. You have to be very explicit, but you have to maintain the highest expectations. And so this has been a very positive school year, positive opening. And, as I said before, this is not and could not be business as usual. To be very clear about what the expectation was, to provide the right supports for staff so that we can make great things happen for children. That's what this is about.
Mr. Celmer, when parents hearing this, you have to admit, and use the word hope, there probably are parents out there, maybe even students, maybe even faculty. I'm sure, from what I understand, the faculty were happy to hear your message of high expectations and positive. We'll provide what you need. But there have to be some people who question that because things have not gone well over the past decade or so. So what do you say to those people?
I say, for one, give us the opportunity, give us a chance, meet with us, talk with us. We are going to be very visible and have been since Dr. Samuels has taken on the receivership role in the community, in our schools. And we are open for conversation. We're open for dialogue. We're open to hearing their concerns, their thoughts on how we move this district forward. None of us are here today saying we have every answer. We're not coming in with that mindset. We're learning as we move forward. There's individuals in this community partners that have come forward already to work with us that have been entrenched in the community for decades. They have the same concerns that you have just mentioned. And hopefully, our openness and our integrity that we are going to do this work with will come through. They'll see that early on when they meet with us, when they speak with us. We care about kids. The entire team that's been put in place, first and foremost, has the best interests of students at heart. And that was really one of Dr. Samuel's, primary questions of the team. Each team member that has come on, why are you here? What is your focus? And we're all here for the students of the Harrisburg School District. And it's easy to sit here and play armchair quarterback about what has happened in the past. I think we can all agree it hasn't been the way it should be, but we're ready to move forward in a positive direction. That was really the start of the school year, bringing the teachers in August 19th and the kickoff event that Dr. Samuels had with the entire staff. That's really what the message was, is we're moving the Harrisburg School District forward in a different direction. Ultimately, time will tell. 3 years from now, when we look back, we'll see where we are, how far we've come, which I believe we are going to come extremely far from where we are today. But time will tell. And all I can say is, we have some experience on this team, given the Reading School District situation. I said on my way out of Reading, we made significant progress, but progress doesn't necessarily mean perfection either. It's a work and process. There's many challenges that will face us. Some we know today, new ones we are on the horizon that we will have to face as a team. But I feel very confident with the team we have in place, with the teachers we have in the schools, with the administrators we have on board, that we are really working under one vision now. The expectations are clear. Mm-hmm. We're all about students, and we're going to move Harrisburg forward.
And the commitment of the team, is noteworthy. The team is extremely committed. Every member of the team, there's a standard of excellence for every member of the team, and I think that also makes a difference in terms of approaching the work and the seriousness of the work.
But you do face challenges that have nothing to do with the schools. There's a high poverty rate in the city of Harrisburg. Their special education students, correct me if I'm wrong, but 18% of students require some special education. Those are challenges that make it difficult for anyone. How do you address those challenges?
Well, first of all,
homelessness, and let me just interrupt for one moment. Homelessness, I think a lot of people were shocked when they learned the percentage of Harrisburg students that are living out of a car or a shelter or something like that. There was a high percentage of students, higher than normal, of homelessness. Go ahead, I'm sorry to interrupt.
So even though those are factors, one of the things that research shows us and tells us, and there's a 90-90-90 study, in spite of poverty, poverty cannot be an excuse. Mm-hmm. Parents send us every single day the very best that they have. And so one of the things that we know is that what matters most is what happens in the classroom. So one thing that we're committed to doing is ensuring that there's high quality, high caliber instruction in the classroom. Every child deserves a chance. And so what we must do is have high standards in the classroom to make sure that, we think about our circle of influence. Vygotsky, So we have to focus on what we can control and what we can impact. If we know that we give every single boy and girl, every student in this district, a fair chance to be successful, that there are going to be results. If we keep the standards high, ensure that there is a consistent, high quality, research-based standard effort in terms of the caliber of curriculum, we know the impact that it will have with students. If we know that we invest in our staff to ensure that we provide high quality, high focus professional learning, the positive impact that it will have. So in spite of all of the major issues, many of the issues that happen in urban areas, sometimes rural areas, etc., knowing those factors, but by keeping our standards high, by exposing children to high quality, high caliber commitment, and making sure that there are great things that happen in classrooms, we know that we can move children, and that's what this is about, and that's what we're committed to doing. Every single child. That's the great equalizer. If we can ensure a high quality education, we can change life chances for the students here in the Harrisburg School District. We are committed to doing just that.
But Dr. Celmer, I mean, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. What the research has also shown is that if a child is worried about, is hungry, or a child doesn't have a home to go home to, or a stable environment at home, it makes it much more difficult in the classroom. That not every child can learn at the same rate because of some of those other factors. How do you address that?
So I'm going to challenge what you're saying.
Okay.
So there are certain factors involving poverty, etc., that we may not be able to. But in schools, school districts, we feed, clothe, and shelter children. That's a factor. But one thing that we can do is to ensure that what happens in school is transformational for children. Every child deserves an opportunity. Like who are we to say, and to divide in terms of the haves and have-nots? We have a responsibility to ensure that all children have an opportunity for high quality instruction, have opportunities for rich instruction, high expectations, so that we can move them further. And I'm sure that across this country, there are many people who have had very challenging upbringings, but it doesn't mean that we should diminish the quality and caliber of the educational opportunities that they are exposed to. We have a responsibility to support every child and to keep our expectations high. And that means educating children from a very holistic perspective. That means looking at not just high quality. When you think about educating children and looking at the whole child, it's educating children academically, socially, and emotionally as well. And those are some factors that we can address and are addressing too, so that we can support children in spite of their circumstances.
I read the comments on articles or posts that I see online. And you often hear this, not just with Harrisburg, but I did hear it with Harrisburg, is that where many people say, well, it's the parents' fault. That if the parents would be more interested in their child's education, that those test scores would be higher than they are. Bottom line is, those people are not just putting everything at all the responsibility on the school district, on the teachers, all the educators. They're saying that this is something that the home life has to be, that there has to be some interest, there has to be some encouragement from parents as well.
But this should not be a blame game. And we are not about the business of blaming parents for anything. As I said, parents send us the best that they have, and parents count on schools, to do the very best for their children. And so what we have a responsibility to do is to partner with parents, embrace parents. Again, the schools belong to the parents, the community, etc. We have a responsibility. We know that parents are their children's first teachers, but we have a responsibility to embrace parents, to work with parents, to share tips and strategies in terms of what parents may be able to do to support their children. But we're not laying blame on any parent. We look forward to working closely with parents so that in collaboration, we can work together to provide the very best.
How much involvement would you want from parents, though?
Oh my goodness. We have a responsibility to work with parents. We should be, parents should be involved in the decision-making process. That's one of the expectations when you think about title funding. About 90 to 100% of the schools across this country receive federal dollars. And one of the expectations when we think about Title I, et cetera, is that we work in sync with parents to educate children. And that's consistent with Every Student Succeeds Act, et cetera. So we want to partner with parents. We want to share what's happening in classrooms, information about curriculum, budgeting, all of those pieces. It's working as, shoulder to shoulder as partners. That's the right thing to do.
And I would add, we also, the parents and the community as a whole. And when you have a central administration that is in influx, as Harrisburg's has been for the last 8 to 10 years, it's very difficult for community partners also to come forward and work with the school administration, also work with the parents in the community to support the schools. And that's certainly something we are looking for as the Harrisburg School District and as we move forward. We're looking forward to the community partners who have services that can maybe address and support our students with some of their needs outside our schools. And really, that's the continuum of service and support the school district's looking to provide for the Harrisburg School District. But that starts at the base level of relationship building and trust, that if the community sends the Harrisburg School District resources, they are going to be used to the betterment of all our children in the Harrisburg School District.
We're going to talk about some specific plans for improving the district coming up. You're listening to Smart Talk on WITF, your home for NPR News and all things regional. I'm Scott LaMar. Today we're talking about the Harrisburg School District, and the state took over earlier this summer, and there are new plans in place. Classes started a few weeks ago. Our guest today, Dr. Janet Samuels, the court-appointed receiver. Christopher Celmer is the acting assistant superintendent. If you have a question or a comment, give us a call, 1-800-729-7532. Send an email to smarttalk@witf.org. On Twitter, we are at smarttalkwitf. Again, the phone number, 1-800-729-7532. Before we get into the specific plans, the things that you've implemented already and what you plan to bring to the district, have to talk about money. Mr. Celmer, I'll ask you, what did you find financially in the district?
We're still working through that process, quite honestly. And the positive message is we're 60 days in, and we're getting closer to having that financial first picture of where we believe we are as a school district. We are looking and going line item by line item through all our processes, procedures, our expenses, our revenue. So it's a very tedious process. Sandy Edling is our acting chief financial officer. Her and her team have spent countless hours working through this process and are getting closer to a first look at where we believe we'll be.
Why is it so difficult?
Lack of, quite honestly, lack of paperwork, lack of budgetary information, lack of documents, just has made this a very difficult task for our team. But there's no excuses, and we're not looking back. We're moving forward. It's the situation that we walked into, and we're okay with that. We're dealing with it, and we are confident we will figure out the financial picture of the school district. And once again, once we have that baseline, then we can really start looking at how we move forward, where maybe the areas concerns are both on the revenue and expense side, and really start to work then with the academic team to see, what programs and what we need for our buildings to start to move the needle within our classrooms. So also we have two expired bargaining unit agreements that we will need to address in the future. All this also with teachers and with our support staff.
Okay.
And so we are anxious as an administration to figure out the financial picture so we can start the process of going to the table with those teams. Obviously, our human capital, our employees are critical to the turnaround of this school district. So we are really looking forward to being at a point where we can, move those conversations forward. At the same time, we have a chief recovery officer, our plan, I should say, that we are working under. There's also an audit that was done at the end of June that was released by Wessel and Company, which was done by PDE. So certainly that audit, Department of Education, that we are going to be working very closely with. There are many good suggestions. There are a number of findings that we need to address as an administration, as well as our own findings as we are digging into the daily operations of the school district. So a lot to do with the financial piece, but I'm confident over the next 30 to 45 days we will have a clearer picture of where we stand as a school district.
You said you don't want to look back, but you have to a degree, because from what I understand, you're still paying bills that you weren't aware of, and plus taxpayers want to know. Understand from that audit there was $5 million that was questionably spent. What does that mean, and was there anything criminal there?
I can't really comment on that piece as far as anything criminal. What it tells me is there was dysfunction in this school district. That is loud and clear. And the individuals that had the responsibility on behalf of the taxpayers and the oversight of that part of the operation, quite frankly, in my opinion, failed the taxpayers of the Harrisburg School District. What I'm here to say today, and working with Dr. Samuels as our receiver, is business is different today. It isn't business as it was. It will be a systematic approach to every component of our operation. That includes our academic pieces, our human resources, our finances, our daily operations, facilities, etc. We have a mindset that it's going to be a team approach, and we are going to work together as a team in harmony to move this school district forward.
Is there a bill that has come in that surprised you?
No. The amount of bills that come in daily that haven't been paid, I believe the volume has surprised me, but not any one bill in particular.
We have a phone call from Dee in Lebanon, who is a former educator. Dee, you're on the air.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm calling because I come from a family of educators. I'm a retired educator, and I have two daughters. One works in Baltimore City, the other in Washington, D.C., both in areas that are poverty-stricken schools. And from what I understand from them, the absolute biggest killer of progress for students is absenteeism. One works at a high school level, the other at an elementary school level, and that is probably the biggest frustration, is the lack of support of students coming to school regularly. So my question to you is, no matter how wonderful of a program you may have in Harrisburg and how awesome the teachers are, how are you going to handle likely the same type of problem in an urban setting with the issue of absenteeism in schools?
Dee, thank you very much. Very good question. That is, and she's right on that is not just Harrisburg, as she said, districts, urban districts across the state and across the country. This is a big issue. What do you do about it?
She's absolutely right. Attendance is a major issue, and that's one of the items and areas that is addressed in the recovery plan. Looking very, very carefully at attendance. And we know that, the first thing, we want children to show up because that impacts where they are academically and otherwise. And so that is part of working directly with students, working with families to instill the importance of education, the importance of being in school, building relationships. Having something that's going to hook children so that they want to show up. So there are a lot of facets that are connected to student attendance. Strong relationships have been proven to also be a factor. Making
Strong
sure that
relationships with who? Teachers? Or?
Exactly. Strong relationships. That we know that the power of teachers in classrooms is something that is noteworthy. That's something that has to be addressed. We know that teachers are pretty special and very powerful, but building those strong relationships with their students, that also is a key factor. Making sure that children are so richly engaged, differentiating instruction, because we know that children are very, very different and unique. But paying attention to all of those factors, we know there is a direct correlation to student attendance, and that's something that we're committed to looking to improve student attendance here in the Harrisburg School District.
Do you have any idea what the absenteeism rate is in Harrisburg School District on a daily basis?
Well, I can tell you, even as the chief recovery officer, I looked at attendance consistently, and we have a continuum in terms of it's been different attendance at our schools. But during this past year, the year that we just completed, the average for the entire district, the attendance rate was about 88%. And we know that we want that monthly daily attendance rate to increase, tenfold. That's not good enough. That's not enough for what we're looking for and what we expect.
Something else that absenteeism is a good predictor of is dropout rates.
Absolutely.
I mentioned that 49% of those students who start ninth grade in Harrisburg High School graduate. That's compared to well over 80%, closer to 90% statewide, and maybe even nationally. So that absenteeism rate will predict down the line if students are going to graduate, right?
Absolutely. There's so many things. We know that looking at daily, attendance. There are correlations actually. You can look at first grade, sixth grade. There are lots of indicators along the way in terms of student attendance. We know that nationally about 35% of ninth graders across the country never show up. And so one of the emphasis that has to be in place is that we embrace our ninth graders, all students. We embrace ninth graders. No student should be invisible. It's making the connections, building relationships, as we talked about earlier, making sure that we pay very, very, very close attention. And again, looking at ways to embrace and support children academically. How do we provide the safety nets that children need? How do we pay attention to that? And so there are efforts underway now here in the Harrisburg School District at the high school level to pay attention to that. We have new administration, but to really work deeply and closely with children and families.
You used the word safety. No, you said safety net, but safety in schools is a big issue for many people. There are disruptive students. Sometimes bigger classrooms. How do you address those things?
We need to pay attention to everything. We know that, parents send their children to be educated, but safety is a factor. And so one thing with safety, it's being proactive, having very, very tight structures and support, how children move, how they enter, what happens during the day, the transition times, who's where, clear halls. Those are things that we're paying attention to because every child needs to feel safe. That's part of showing up, attendance, but it's also part of being successful, academically. We want the very best for every single student in the district, and we are paying attention to every single detail, how students move, what entrances they use, walking to the right, in every detail we are focusing on with great attention. High expectations, high visibility amongst the staff, the administrators throughout the building consistently. And again, those relationships are very important.
It's a student walking on the left side of the hallway.
Right.
Would someone say, hey, move over to the right?
Absolutely.
I asked that question because...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
Every school, doesn't matter, elementary to middle, just like driving a car. Having structures and expectations makes life easier so that children are focusing on what's happening in classrooms and not, their safety, etc. That should be a given. That's a right that every student has.
It's not a British high school where we walk on the left side. A direct quote from you, Dr. Samuels, that I want to read, and this goes along the lines of what we've been talking about, but you say that the faculty and the staff should expect improvements under leadership that include emphasis on early learning, curriculum materials, safe schools, clean buildings, and more responsive human resources department. Early learning, let's talk about that. There has been a lot of emphasis nationwide on early learning over the last few years and why it is so important. Has that happened in Harrisburg, and what will be done to change it?
It's happening in Harrisburg. So one of the things that we are doing is, as I mentioned earlier, we're paying attention to curriculum. We're paying attention to research-based materials for our children. And we're also paying attention to supporting staff members so that they have the right structures in place so that they're able to support children. One of the things that we know, it's been an emphasis of the governor, is to make sure that every student, there were probably at least 200,000 students here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, young children who should be in high quality, high caliber early learning programs. And so our goal is to work in partnership with preschools, other entities that support young children to make sure that the appropriate components are in place, but also in preschool and kindergarten within the district to look at quality structures for children, but also that's an opportunity to work with parents of very young children to support their children as well. We know that those foundational skills also they're like stepping stones, milestones to support student success, and we're committed to ensuring that all of our students, our youngest children especially, have the right seeds so that they can build upon and blossom and flourish.
We know that if a student is not reading on grade level by third grade, that there is a problem, and that could be, again, an accurate predictor of how successful that student is throughout their academic career, whether they graduate, how they graduate, that kind of thing. Those test scores that I read earlier, 20% of third graders test proficient in reading. I mean, obviously there is nowhere to go but up. What do you do? Now, you talked a lot about embracing these students, but I mean, when the scores are that low, first of all, we can talk about test scores all we want, but still, that's how the state measures the progress of students. Mr. Celmer, what do you do to get these kids able to read? I mean, the young children especially, that they are reading on level or maybe even beyond level.
Well, again, as Dr. Samuels just spoke of, it starts with early pre-K and prior to pre-K services. Coordination of those services with the school district are going to be critical in closing that gap. And I think as school districts, we do a good job partnering with our local intermediate units, Head Start programs, pre-K count programs. But to take that to the next level, we also have to partner with our community providers, the mom and pop, so to speak, providers of early child learning services within the community. And how can we ensure that they're offering programming at ages 3, 4, and 5 as they're coming into the Harrisburg School District that are coordinated and really flow well with what they'll see when they enter our buildings as a pre-K or a kindergarten student. Support programs after school will also be critical in closing that gap. Locally at Reading, we have a Ready, Set, Read program where we have individuals from the community. They come in and read several times a week to our students. Again, a very effective program that has helped us in the Reading community in improving the literacy, the third grade component of where we want to see our students by third grade. I would say, though, as far as test scores, the state they've changed their emphasis. It certainly scores tell a story, but it's also about growth and progress within individual students. So as this team comes on board, we are going to be looking at data, and we're going to look at it, I'll call it a deeper look, to see actually what are individual students doing to progress. Where are maybe the roadblocks that are kind of not allowing them to progress at a rate that we would like them to see. So part of our goal as an administration is really to take the data that's going to be available to us and how can we use that data to drive instruction. And there's already been initiatives that Dr. Samuels had started last month with a new curriculum program K through 5. We're using Eureka Math, which is one of the widely renowned math programs in the country. So I believe we're starting to bring resources in within 60 days. And that's the other thing I don't think we can lose sight of. The receivership happened at the end of June. we're at the, just finished the end of August. So the fact that there's new curriculum material that's entering the elementary schools within 60 days. So it is a critical area for us. It is a critical focus for us. We know time lost with students. It's very hard to get that time back. And that's kind of the guys we're working under. We know that we don't want to lose time with our students, and for all the factors and the things that you mentioned today. So it is a focus area. It's been a focus area since the receivership plan was announced at the end of June, and it's going to continue to be a focus area for this administration, working with the receiver moving forward.
Right. And to add to that, again, being passionate about teaching and learning, we know that it's very, very important to emphasize literature and literacy. We know that in our classrooms that there has to be, print-rich environments for children, literacy-rich environment, differentiating instruction, exposing children to deep literacy because it impacts every area that they're going to be exposed to, ensuring that children are engaged in lots of rich reading, writing consistently in every content area across the grades. So very, very, very important instructional strategies are also being put in place in classrooms also that will impact children, so that we are cognizant of what children should know and be able to do, and that we make that our emphasis and our priority across the board. So we are committed to making sure that there are very intentional, very direct changes in classrooms across the board.
And the other piece we're committed to is also the teacher input in this process. That's something we've heard early on, that the teachers who are in the classrooms with our students each and every day maybe didn't have the input or the ability to share their thoughts on what needed to happen within their own classroom to move instruction forward to support our students. So certainly that will be another piece under this administration is, again, we're not coming to Harrisburg saying we have all the answers. Each community is different in its own right, and we're learning about the community, and we're learning about what the needs of Harrisburg are.
You're listening to Smart Talk on WITF, your home for NPR News and all things regional. I'm Scott LaMar. And today we're talking about the Harrisburg School District. State took over earlier this summer, and we're talking about now the school has started, plans that are in place and that have been implemented, and what the future looks like. Our guest today, Dr. Janet Samuels, the court-appointed receiver, Christopher Celmer, acting assistant superintendent. If you have a question or comment, give us a call, 1-800-729-7532. On Twitter, we are at Smart Talk WITF. Again, that phone number, 1-800-729-7532. Received several emails from listeners asking about charter schools, private schools, but I want to address one specific instance that's related to that. Pennsylvania's Republican House Speaker Mike Turzai has proposed requiring districts in receivership to provide scholarship grants and provide money from the state that would create grants up to $7,100 per student to attend other schools. And Harrisburg Mayor Eric Papenfuss, a Democrat, by the way, has come on board with this, saying that it would give some Harrisburg School District students an opportunity that they may not have. Your thoughts about it?
Well, one of the things the school district has had in place a recovery plan since 2012. And there are three overarching goals of the recovery plan. And that is to increase the financial status of the district, to improve academic achievement, and also, I call it student stability, but to stem the tide in terms of the number of children leaving the district for charter schools. And so, to be very candid and very focused, my laser-like focus is on that plan. And when we think about student stability, maintaining students in the district, every student in the Harrisburg School District has a right to an outstanding education. And that's our responsibility as a public school district to provide that for all children. When we think education is the great equalizer, certainly do know that and agree with that. So that means that this is not about the business of picking and choosing which children can afford to go to other schools outside of the district. This is about maintaining and reclaiming children who may have left the district and to ensure that they get a high quality, high caliber education. And so as receiver, working under the recovery plan, that's part of the responsibility that I look forward to along with the team in terms of ensuring that every student in the Harrisburg School District and community can get a high quality education in the Harrisburg School District.
Those three things that you mentioned from 2012, apparently those things haven't happened up until now.
It's a new day.
Okay, maybe a new day, but what you described with the third one of keeping students from, or retaining students, we'll put it that way. Keeping sounds like, it's so authoritative. Limiting or retaining those students in the school district. There may be some who would say that, well, what's more important, the stability of the school district or the education of the child? And
Well-
I ask that question because there are those who say, well, if the education is most important, should it matter that they're seeking that elsewhere?
So they're intertwined. When you think about public school districts, we have a responsibility to educate all children and to make it something that every child is entitled to. And so again, as Mr. Celmer said, we're not looking to the past. We're looking to ensuring that as we move forward, that all children in the Harrisburg School District receive a high quality and high caliber education. And we're committed to making sure that all of the essential tools and requirements in order to make that happen are in place, from soup to nuts, dotting every I, crossing every T, to make sure that happens. And again, every child, every family should have an equal opportunity for a high quality instructional program for their students. That's what we are certainly committed to ensuring.
But, and this is not a philosophical or a political debate or anything, but I'm raising the pushback that some people may have. With that said, shouldn't that include, if the education of the student, a student that would normally attend the Harrisburg School District, if that education, if the parents don't feel that that student is getting a quality education, and you have to look back at the past somewhat, because you have kids who have been in this district for years, that if they want what they think is a better education, that they have a choice to go elsewhere.
But we have an opportunity to compete and to, again, right the ship so that we can give every family, not to make this haves and have-nots, to ensure that every family, every student who should be part of this Harrisburg School District receives a high quality, high caliber education. We're committed to doing that so that there's equity and that we're talking about all students.
And we're going to continue to look at our program offerings across the district. We are going to be offering a 100% online program option through the school district that will be announced this week, that students can come and join the Harrisburg School District, graduate with a Harrisburg School District diploma 100% online, which is a bit different than our Cougar Academy, which is a blended model. We're going to look at our high school programming. We have many students that work to support their family. And what programming can we do that's maybe a little bit outside the box to support that population of our students so they can attain their diploma at the end of their journey here with the Harrisburg School
Will
District?
students have a computer, be able to do that? Will all students have computers?
Part of the program, the 100% online, is they would be given a computer for signing up with that program.
What about other students throughout the district?
We currently have deployed over 600 computers in the last 3 weeks across the district. So we're looking at our platforms across all our buildings to ensure, from a technological perspective, that we're competing with every school district that surrounds Harrisburg.
And one of the facets and one of the components with the instructional programs that we are including right now is there's an online component where we also make the curriculum available to our parents.
I want to thank you both for being with us today. There's so many things to talk about. Dr. Janet Samuels, Christopher Celmer, thank you very much for being with us
Thank
today.
you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.